Jerry never just ran scales, he danced through them. There are a few sneaky patterns he used all the time, and once you spot them, you'll hear them everywhere. Let's check out 6 of them, starting with pattern 1. It's simple, but it creates a ton of forward motion. So this first one I call the 4-note dance. It's just a simple pattern of 4. So say we take the major scale, right, like E, and we just flat that 7th because that gives you the Mixolydian sound. That is the Grateful Dead sound, right? So if you just do it right here, we'll just do E, right? And you go up 4, and then you do the next 4 and the next 4, right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then starting on the second one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can guess it, the third one, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then so on. And then usually if you want to make it kind of resolve while you're doing exercise, go beyond the root and then stop there. It sounds a little better than just stopping abruptly right on it. But Jerry would actually do this descending more often than ascending. So you may think a logical way to practice this, you start low somewhere and then you kind of work your way up. But I would actually recommend practicing this higher and going down like this. You know, and so on and stuff. But of course, practice it both ways. You know, once you get this under your fingers, you can start to speed it up, but just try it real slow. And this is going to get you that Jerry sound when it comes to playing scale patterns faster than any other ones. But let's check out this other one where he adds this moment where he adds just the right kind of tension. So this one I call chromatic triplets. Basically, if you're sticking to the same thing of E Mixolydian, he's just taking any old spot at all, right? And he would just go down again often, but sometimes going up too. Just 3 notes right in a row. So one of those notes typically would end up being outside of the key, so you call it chromatic, just these chromatic notes right in a row. And then anywhere you could just go like this. Like that, or, my example, I did right here. We're just going right across the fretboard, right? And the idea is, though, once you do it, you want to end up typically resolving it onto a chord tone or something, because it sounds almost random and weird. It gives that kind of little playful sound that he had. But you want to kind of tidy it up, by resolving it and not just going like that. That would sound pretty awkward and abrupt. So throw these in anywhere. Just and they're not necessarily actual triplets. Sometimes they're like 16th note triplets. It doesn't really matter, but it just depends on the speed and how it's being used. But the idea is just these little groups of 3, so they're like triplet groupings and stuff. And these patterns, they show up all over Jerry's solos. But the real magic happens when you start playing them over tunes that feel like the Dead. So I put together some free Grateful Dead style backing tracks so you can practice in that vibe. So just check out the link down below to just start jamming with them. Listen to how wide the intervals get here, but it still feels connected to the key. So if you didn't recognize it, that was coming from the Scarlet Begonia's outro riff, All right, so what is going on there? But we are in B Mixolydian, right? But he's playing around a lot of these chords that are in here, so going around B to a B7. We can just forget some of these notes. We'll simplify, right? So it's just B. Then we have F sharp minor, and then you have A, right? E, right? So you have B, E, right? And A, and then that right there. You can play any of the chords that are going to be in this key. So you could take the scale, right? And go like this and play these little triads, like B. That's a diminished one, right? Because we're in Mixolydian. And and then back to B and stuff. So sometimes he would play scales as chords, and it wouldn't necessarily be like that. That was like a real exercise way of doing it, which is a great way to get this stuff under your fingers and into your ears and figuring it all out. But like in my example, I was just I was like going over and over when you're doing the A one and the E and just doing that rather than just playing it like a scale. So that is what I call scale-based arpeggios. They're just kind of hidden right inside the scale. Now this next one feels like it's spinning in place, kind of just building energy, but without really moving forward. So this one is taking, patterns of 3 or 4. In this case, I was doing patterns of 4, just going up and back down and just over and over, and then moving it somewhere else. And this is something he would do often when the jam would start to get kind of out there. And it just feels like, it's like this, it's just building tension. You're kind of just stuck there, but it's just fast little patterns within the scale. So a similar idea, as that, but just going up and down. And, it's just a great way, to throw on the wah sometimes, to this. And it just really, it just feels like you're just stuck and not going anywhere. So it's a great way to take it out there. That's what I call the tension loop. Now, this one is real common, but real sneaky. It outlines the chords, but it moves across the neck in a way that's just super smooth. So this one I call the diagonal pentatonic slide, and it's a great way to outline chords. Jerry would do this all the time, and it's so easy. It's just taking, say like F, right, and just playing the pentatonic scale. You don't have to go across like a full diagonal, like that. You don't even need all that. Just start with the root, right, and then slide up, and maybe slide back down, and just going up to the next root, and then say, okay, here's the next one. C, G, and it's just, the same shape over and over, and it really helps outline those chords. And I think of it as like, My Girl, right? It's just that little bass line guitar groove for My Girl, and he would do that all the time. And it's, again, a great way to really get outside of just playing these, like one scale, but playing along with the chords. Now, again, if you want to hear how these patterns actually sound in a jam, just grab those dead style backing tracks below. They are super fun to play with, and they'll really help these ideas stick way faster. Now, here's one that sounds rhythmic and melodic at the same time, and it's almost like he's dancing across the strings. So this one I call the 3-note cell, and it is basically just a twist on the 4-note dance, right? So instead of going patterns of 4, he's doing patterns of 3. So going, so you just go 3, and then the next one, which brings it right back up. So it gives you a little different kind of feel, because it's like back up, and so on and stuff. Now these things are, they're great to just work out as exercises, but when you actually go to use them, you never want to just play it across, the fretboard a ton. It's just little bits, here and there is what makes it sound good. So take, all these with a grain of salt, use them as exercises, but just use them sparingly when you actually are improvising solos with them. And now these patterns are a big part of Jerry's sound, but sometimes he didn't even use them at all. Instead, he would do something way simpler, and honestly, it completely changed how I approach soloing. So if you want to see what it is, check out this video here, and I'll break it down and show you how to use it in your own playing.